Hello, my name's Laura Sermon. I'm a clinical nurse specialist with the Hampshire CAMHS team, and welcome to this e-learning package about responding to adolescent mental distress within a school setting. The term mental health refers to a person's psychological and emotional well-being. We all have mental health in the same way that we all have physical health, and we can all be vulnerable to experiencing poor mental health, distress or sadness. As well as most people experiencing mental distress at some point in their lives, 10 to 20% of children and adolescents worldwide experience specific mental health conditions. Mental health difficulties do generally appear to be becoming more common amongst children and adolescents. This may be due to a number of reasons. In recent history, mental health has become less stigmatised and more understood, which may have led to higher numbers of people recognising mental health difficulties, and as such, higher levels of these kinds of conditions are being reported. People also generally experience different life stresses currently compared to the past, including social media and the COVID-19 pandemic. Adolescence is a time of huge change socially, psychologically, physically and educationally, and as such, adolescents are particularly vulnerable to both mental distress and mental health conditions. Research suggests that adolescents require the following: autonomy, support, structure and warmth, as opposed to psychological control, chaos and rejection. Although mental health can be a complex subject, there are some basic principles which everyone needs in order to work towards well-being. This concept is referred to the 5 Ways to Wellbeing, and it consists of being active, connecting, taking notice, learning and giving. I'll talk a little bit more about each of these in a moment, but one key thing to keep in mind is that for adolescents, a school environment can be a key contributor to each of these 5 ways to well-being. Be active. Physical activity is an evidence-based method of improving mental health and well-being. This doesn't have to look like committing to an extreme or intensive exercise regimen, and in some cases this may be unhelpful. Ways of getting active for young people could include walking the dog, doing yoga, engaging in PE at school, taking part in an exercise class or playing a sport. Connecting. Connection is a huge part of mental well-being. Research is clear that social isolation is a factor associated with suicide, as well as a host of physical health issues. Connection may refer to individual connections or to the feeling of belonging to a group or system. For young people, connection may come from friendship, family, being a member of a club or team, working on a project with peers, and many more ways. Take notice. Taking notice means actively bringing our mind's attention and interest to the world around us and ourselves, what is going on externally to us and what is happening within us. In our society, we often find that we may be doing 2, 3 or more tasks at any one time, or we may be excessively thinking about the past or the future. This can be a barrier to working towards good mental health. Some ways to take notice are spending time in nature, engaging in creative activities, using mindfulness, either by a guided mindfulness track or by spending some time sitting quietly, and observing one's own thoughts. Keep learning. Learning has been shown to have a number of benefits to our sense of well-being and life satisfaction, including increasing self-esteem, encouraging social interaction and providing a sense of purpose. Although many young people report finding school and learning stressful, we know that the evidence is clear that learning is associated with positive mental health. Therefore, it is important to find a way to keep young people engaged in learning and school in a way that both meets their academic and educational needs, as well as feeling manageable and maintainable. Learning within a school environment is the most obvious method of learning for adolescents. However, there are other ways to keep learning for young people too. These may include learning a new practical skill such as cooking, taking on new hobbies like playing an instrument, or learning more about a special interest. Giving. As social creatures, we benefit from engaging with other people on a meaningful level. When we give to others, this promotes a sense of trust and cooperation in our relationships. Through this, we strengthen our relationships with others, making them more positive, which is key to good mental health. Young people can give to others by listening to their peers, engaging in volunteer work, contributing to chores, or donating old clothes or toys.
Often we respond to a problem before we completely understand the problem. Taking an extra few minutes to ask questions to ensure you understand the situation can help you to know more clearly what would be the helpful next step. Helpful questions might be: can you tell me more about how this problem started? Can you tell me what you hope will happen next? Can you tell me what you experience and feel that makes this situation difficult for you? The purpose of asking questions is to work out the goal for solving the problem. For example, if someone does not want to attend class because they feel anxious and they say that the anxiety will prompt them to self-harm, we can think about the function of the class avoidance and of self-harm. It is likely that the person is aiming to avoid the feeling of anxiety by not attending class and suppress the feeling of anxiety by self-harming. Many of our unhelpful behaviours are focused on avoiding an unwanted emotional state or suppressing an unwanted emotional state. Therefore, our questions will aim to understand this process for the person we are talking to. Can you tell me what it is like for you to feel anxious about being in class? What thoughts go through your mind? How does your body feel? By understanding the problem well, we are more likely to be able to work out problem-solving strategies that reduce the impact of the troublesome emotion. Throughout this e-learning, Laura and I will be doing some role plays to illustrate how you may wish to respond to a young person who's in mental distress while at school. In particular, we will be thinking about how to respond when a young person says they're unable to do a certain thing because it will lead them to have an urge to self-harm.
Okay, so the reason that I wanted to have a bit of a catch-up today is so that we can think about how school is for you at the moment, because I've been getting a sense that it's quite tricky right now. Okay, so do you want to tell me a bit about what's going on?
Just don't want to be in school.
Okay.
Don't like it.
Yeah. Is there anything specific that you don't like?
Just don't like being in lessons.
Yeah. And what is it about lessons that's hard?
People in there, they just say stuff and mess around and just they're all looking at me, spreading rumours.
Right. Okay, so when that's happening, when people are mucking around, then what happens for you?
Just want to get out. Don't want them looking at me. They all hate me.
Okay. So you have that feeling if you want to get out, and that's when you kind of walk out of the lesson. Yeah, because that's the bit that I've noticed, obviously, that you're spending a lot of time not in lessons, kind of in other areas of the school. So it sounds like you're having these experiences in lessons where you feel that you need to get out, you walk out, and then that's kind of a bit of a summary. Is there anything else kind of going on at the moment?
Just want to get out of the classroom and just want to hurt myself.
Okay. So the feelings that you want to get out are so intense that it sometimes sounds like it's ending up in you self-harming.
Yeah.
Okay. And no one in this situation wants that. Okay. So are there any lessons that feel a bit better for you at the moment?
Art's all right.
Yeah. What is it about art that's a bit better?
The teacher in there, they don't let them get away with being just messing about and stuff.
Okay. And is there a lesson that's particularly tricky at the moment?
Like science, if we're doing experiments, the teacher's not really knowing what's going on. So
that's when like people are mucking about, and then you feel that feeling of wanting to get out is more intense. Okay, so just to make sure I'm understanding correctly, lessons are really hard at the moment because people mucking about, talking about you, you feel like people are looking at you, and that leads you to want to get out, and that's what you do. You walk out, or, sometimes it ends up in self-harm.
Yeah.
And science is the worst lesson for that at the moment, and art is a bit easier.
Yeah.
Is that a fair summary of what's going on? Okay. Validation. By emotional validation, we mean that we are understanding and accepting another person's emotional experience. Validation can be a really powerful tool in supporting someone in distress and can help promote positive mental health. Emotional invalidation essentially means to reject, deny, or ignore another person's emotional experience. Sometimes we can be emotionally invalidating without even realising. Some examples could be saying, "I'm sure it's not that bad," "pull yourself together," or "you're making a big deal of this." People in emotional distress, especially young people, may find these kinds of statements upsetting, and they may feel that their emotional pain is not being taken seriously. This might then increase their levels of distress. Some ways to be more emotionally validating are, "It sounds like you're going through a really tough time. I can hear how upset you're feeling right now, and it makes sense that you feel this way." One key aspect to this technique is the idea that all feelings are valid and deserve validation, including ones such as anger, sadness, and disgust. However, this does not mean that all actions are valid. This is an important balance to strike. For example, if you hit someone you are angry with, this is not a valid behaviour. This includes other behaviours that are related to mental health difficulties or emotional distress, especially ones which may contribute to the difficulty or distress itself, including avoidance, lashing out, and self-harm. In the case of a young person who does not want to attend a particular lesson because of how anxious it makes them, their feelings of anxiety, worry, and fear are valid because it is their own emotional experience. Their urge may be to completely avoid this particular lesson in order to not experience these emotions. However, we know that avoidance will likely only contribute to difficulties with anxiety. In the case of this young person, a potential way of managing this situation could be actively listening to what they are saying, nodding along and repeating back what they're saying, using validating language when talking to them, and eventually trying to summarise what they have said, such as, "It sounds like you're really anxious about going to your history lesson because you've recently had an argument with the person you sit next to. That's such a tricky situation, and I can understand why you feel so worried about going in." Discuss with them that avoiding the entire situation is unlikely to help and may even worsen the original problem. Work with them on some problem-solving solutions, which we will discuss later. In summary, validation is a powerful technique and is essentially communicating to another person that you understand and accept their thoughts and feelings. It is important to remember that this does not mean that all behaviours are helpful in reducing distress, and supporting a young person to change their behaviour can itself be validating. That sounds really, really difficult, and I can understand why, if you feel like people are looking at you and talking about you and it's all getting a bit much, I can understand why that feels so unpleasant. It sounds like you feel really anxious. Yeah. I'm really sorry that that's going on for you.
No one cares about that though. They just want me to be in class.
Okay, so I'm sat here with you right now. I haven't just told you to go back to class. We're here to think about, what we do next. Okay? So...
They don't understand that, if they make me go back to class, then I'll just end up self-harming.
Yeah, I can hear what you're saying and hear how difficult it is at the moment. And what I want is to kind of find a way where, we can think about you getting into class a bit more, but do so in a way that we're supporting you with that, okay? Because no one wants you to be self-harming, and no one wants you to be out of school all the time either, yeah? Because neither of those ends of the spectrum are great outcomes at the moment, are they? Okay, so I recognise just how difficult things are at the moment, and that's why I'm here, to have a bit of a think about what we do next, okay?
Change is very difficult. If you think about a behaviour that you have tried to change, to either do more of or less of, you will have noticed that it is hard to make a change. We can enter unhelpful patterns of behaviour without intending for this to happen. And yet, if we want to step out of that pattern, we need to be able to work hard and make tangible changes. We often begin to believe that certain behaviours are inevitable. A particular behaviour gets stuck to a particular situation. Every time I open the fridge, I take a grape to eat. Highlighting choice can begin to break the assumption that certain behaviours are inevitable. Helpful things to say might be, we can all fall back into unhelpful patterns of responding to our emotions. There may be lots of ways to solve this problem. Let's think about your choices. I can understand that you might drop into your usual pattern of behaviour of self-harming, and I wonder if there's some other ways to deal with this situation. I would like to help you change that pattern of behaviour. Will you think with me about other ways you might choose to respond? So when do we push for change, and when do we back off? We are most likely to have helpful conversations about change when the person is calm but alert. When a person is in the middle of strong emotions, they will need support and direction. When the person is disengaged, they need to know that you are still interested. When the person is calm and alert, they need to use the opportunity to problem solve. Helpful things to say. Is this a good time to do some planning about how to overcome this problem? I can see you are really anxious or upset at the moment. Maybe we could meet later to problem solve. What do you need now to help you feel calmer? Shall we do some walking to help you calm down? Then maybe we can think about how to solve this problem. So
it sounds like things have been tricky for a while, really.
Yeah, I just can't come back to school because I'll just end up self-harming. It'll just be like school's fault.
Yeah. And, we both know we're all creatures of habit, aren't we? And sometimes we can get stuck in patterns that we don't want to be in and that aren't helpful to us. Super easy to do that, isn't it? You get stuck in those patterns of behaviour. And it sounds like at the moment that, we're kind of in this position with you where you're in your lessons, things get really difficult, you feel really upset, and then what happens there is that you walk out, and sometimes it ends in self-harm. But I think that if we work together, we could, think about some different options there and make some different choices. Yeah, and it won't be easy, but I think we can definitely do it, give it a go. And we might find that, you still experience that upset, things get difficult, but that we've got some other ways of dealing with that other than walking out or self-harming. So I was thinking we could have a bit of a think about the different options and the choices that we have here. Is that all right? Problem solving. Once a person feels validated, listened to and calmer, they can focus on how to overcome the challenges they're facing. People will often not be open to problem solving unless they feel validated first. Talk with the person to understand what the specific problem is. Try to keep this based in reality rather than emotions. For example, if the young person is saying that the problem is, everyone hates me, wonder with them if a more accurate statement is, I feel lonely at lunchtime as I don't have anyone to sit with and this makes me feel embarrassed. Generate as many different solutions as you can to the problem, even ones that seem far-fetched or unhelpful. In this example, some solutions might be sitting in the toilets every lunch so no one sees me on my own, joining lunchtime clubs, sitting alone, stop coming to school, ask different groups of people if I can sit with them. And then you discuss the advantages and disadvantages of the different solutions. Think about both short and long-term advantages and disadvantages. You can then agree a specific plan, such as I will attend one club on Mondays and Wednesdays and another club on Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Fridays, or if one of my clubs is cancelled, I can either sit on my own and try to manage the difficult feelings that come up from this, or I can ask other people to sit with them. Again, use emotional validation to explain that this might not completely change the situation or completely get rid of any difficult emotions. Let's have a bit of a think about the different solutions that we might have to this situation. Okay, and this can be all the different solutions, even if we think they're helpful or unhelpful, because then what we'll do is we'll put some kind of advantages and disadvantages to them and figure out what to do together. So this problem that we've got of you feeling really, really distressed, really upset when you're in your lessons and then walking out or self-harming, what might be one solution to make that problem less or go away?
Been working well, just not being in school.
Okay, so that's option one, is stop coming to school. So what might be good about that? What might that achieve?
You don't have to see them or other people.
So with that option, you stop seeing people, so then you don't have that kind of feeling of getting upset. Okay. Right, let's think about what the disadvantages of not coming to school might be.
Might get a bit bored at home.
Yeah, it might be all right for a week or so. Then there's only so much daytime TV you can watch, isn't there? Okay, so you get a bit bored. Another disadvantage, what might not be all right about stopping coming to school?
I do have some friends at school, and I haven't been seeing them.
So you'd miss your mates?
Mm.
Yeah. Again, that kind of links in with the first one, doesn't it? You'd get bored and then, they'd be at school and you'd be at home. Yeah. What might another disadvantage of not coming to school be?
I might fail my exams.
Yeah, that's a big one, I guess. If you stop coming to school, you're not going to have the information you need to do your exams, and then, that might have a bit of a knock-on effect, mightn't it? Okay, and actually, from what I know about you, you're really clever, and there's some things you're particularly good at, like your art. And if you stop coming to school and don't pass your exams in the way that, I know you can, then that really lessens the opportunities for your future, and that's not fair on you, is it? Okay, so let's think of another solution.
Could sit closer to the teacher maybe, and then maybe they'll stop people saying stuff. I don't know.
Okay, so I can see that if you're sat close to the teacher, people might muck about less, and then that might be a bit easier for you.
But they might just all the other kids will just think I'm teacher's pet kind of stuff.
Okay, so there's an advantage and a disadvantage there, isn't there? So the advantage is that people muck about less, kind of say less stuff to you, and then the disadvantage is that people might think you're a teacher's pet. Okay. So let's think of another solution before we have a bit of a think about what to do.
I don't know.
Is there anything that, is there any time where you've got to that level of distress before and you've done something that's helped you get through it?
Don't know, maybe.
What's that been then?
Well, someone told me once to kind of look round and see stuff that I could see.
So that sounds like a grounding exercise.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's the name for it. And when you did that, what did that do for you?
No, just didn't think so much about like the other people in the class.
Yeah.
Wasn't thinking about them hating me, and wasn't thinking about like wanting to leave.
Yeah, it kind of distracted you from your thoughts. Okay.
Yeah.
And are there any disadvantages to doing that?
Don't think so.
No?
Although people might just think I'm all right with it being in class. Because I stay in, they might just think it's all right.
Yeah. And that would be kind of tricky, wouldn't it? Because, we know that you're not feeling all right at the moment. So I think, why don't we go with both of those last two solutions that we've spoken about? We can have you in your particularly difficult lessons like science, maybe sit a bit closer to the teacher, and I'll have a bit of a chat with them, or we can both have a bit of a chat with your teachers about why that is and what might be helpful about that, so that they can be in the loop. So that's one thing we can do. And then one thing that you can do is those grounding exercises of looking around and counting what you can see and seeing, listening to what's around you. And that'll help you take your mind off of, the distress that you might feel, because we know it's kind of, it's possible that even though we're doing this thing with sitting closer to the teacher, you might still feel upset sometimes. Yeah? Okay. So I think with this plan, we might be able to get you in your lessons a little bit more. Yeah? And even if we do that slowly, that's okay. I think that's still a win. How do you feel about that plan?
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, we'll give it a go? Okay. And we can kind of we can have another meeting like this and see how these solutions are going and see if we need to add anything in, take anything out. And we'll work together to make things a bit better for you here at school. Cool. Thank you for watching this e-learning package. I hope you found it helpful. Please provide us with some feedback by using the QR code on screen, and visit the Hampshire CAMHS website if you need any more information.